Greetings friends, and a warm welcome to this channel. The purpose of this video is to show how to use self-opening die heads that happen to have a straight shank in an engine lathe. It's relatively easy to use one of these self-opening heads that happen to have a tapered shank, because tapered shank tooling is widely available for the tailstock of an engine lathe. But I found that these straight shanks were generally more economical to purchase used on online auctions, and readily available often with dies that were suitable for a project that you might want to do. In my case here, I wanted to produce my own studs. This is an example of what I was wanting to do. This is a commercial 3/8 stud. These come in a full set of different lengths. This is a set I had for one of my rotary tables, but since I had several tables and each can take different size studs from 1/4, 5/16 to 3/8, I decided that I wanted to make my own. Now there's several ways you can approach this. You can do it single point on a lathe, which I do enjoy single point threading, I really do, but I don't know that I want to set up and do 400 individual threads an inch long, 2 inches long, for studs of different sizes. So generally it would be easier to use a hand die stock rather than single point threading, or you can do a combination of single point thread to about half the depth, and then finish it with a hand die stock, which you have. If you don't have very many of these threads to do, that's okay to do it that way, and I do that often in my lathe. But you also have the option, which is widely mentioned in videos online, to use one of these dies in a specific die holder with the right tapered shank that might fit your lathe in a tailstock. But I decided I wanted to adapt or use straight shank self-opening die heads in the project that I had in mind. So in this video I will show you how I went about that with two different sizes of shanks that I happen to have, and maybe perhaps that will assist you if you have been having trouble finding videos about how this is done on an engine lathe. It seems like we just don't have many videos out there that talk about using or how to adapt these heads to a tool post, and to do it in a way that makes it really easy to set them up each time you need to do a run of threads. So here in this view, you can readily see how you can set up a straight shank or self-opening die head in a CXA-2 tool holder on an engine lathe. I happen to have the Alora set that has a CXA-2, and it has a groove in the bottom so that round tooling fits nicely and registers properly in the axis of the machine. So with this CXA-2 tool holder, in my example, you can probably have others that may be suitable also. But in this example, then I locked the die head into the front part of the tool holder after I had lined up the tool holder itself with the ways of the machine and the axis of the spindle. So everything is already centered axially. Then what I did is I took a piece of cold rolled steel and center drilled a hole in one end that's the same size as the shank for the die head. It happens to be 3/4. So by placing this center drilled registering piece in the back end of the tool post holder, then I was able to use the tailstock with a center in it to determine if everything is actually lined up correctly. When you bring that center up there, you can visually see around the center point if the tool holder is too low or if the slide is too far in or too far back. But once you adjust the vertical part, you can lock that with the adjustment screw at the top of the tool holder, and then just adjust your slide accordingly in or out so that you get that centered. And if that's centered, and if your tool holder is square to the lathe spindle and the ways, then the other end that comes up to your work is also going to be centered. And I would highly suggest that if you use this method, just using a CXA tool holder, for example, as an occasional use method rather than have a dedicated tool holder, this method will work out good. I would suggest zeroing your slides once you get it all set up. If you're going to be in one particular operation, keep your slides zeroed so you can see if you happen to bump slides somehow, which that happens, that it will stay on center. So that makes it really easy to use a normal tool post with a normal tool holder. And by using this pin, this centering pin, just keep that centering pin with the die head wherever you store it, so it's always readily available to bring everything on center. Now in this view, what I have is a custom made tool holder. This tool holder is custom made for two different die heads I have that happen to have the same shank. It's about a 15/16 inch shank, so those shanks will not fit a normal tool holder. And I decided I would set up and build my own dedicated tool holder for my machine that can be readily set up and lined up, and the die head can stay in this, or I can switch the two die heads I have very easily. But here's how this is done. If you want to know how to cut these dovetails, there are several videos, really good videos online that go through the process of how to measure it, because you want that to fit properly on your tool post, pretty much the same as the rest of your tool holders. But you drop that tool holder on the tool post and bring it pretty well locked. And if you have this, whatever size hole here, you turn a piece of stock with the same diameter end as this piece here for your initial alignment. So you bring this up, and once you adjust this adjustment here on your tool holder and lock it down for vertical, then you adjust your slide in and out so that it fits that way. So that's the first way that this is used initially. That's an initial setup. Once that's done, that's usually only done one time. So since I had also bored a hole in the opposite end where the die head went into the tool holder, I drilled a hole of a 1/2 inch diameter in the opposite end in alignment with the front hole, so I can then use the tailstock. Once this tool post is lined up square, obviously with the lathe axis, then I can bring the tailstock up here, and I can use the tailstock with the pin, a 1/2 inch pin, to bring it into that little hole in the back side. And this then allows me to set this up anytime I want, only by making sure the tool post is square with the slides, and only using this tailstock to line this hole correctly up and down and make the slide go in and out. Now here's the final piece of the puzzle for what I did here with this. This is my smaller 9/16 head. It has, like I said, it's like a 15/16 shank. They're odd. But this is the same shank that I have on two different heads. So what I did is I cut a flat in the shank pretty much where I wanted to register in the center of the hole of the holder. So I can place this in the holder and then begin turning the set screw down and wiggling the head a little bit so that I can get it to where it's going to lock in right in that groove, right in that, exactly where I want it in that groove, and lock it in. And then it's ready to use anytime I want. And that'll bring it online on center. It'll position the handle and the adjustment screws in an easy place where I can adjust them nicely and I can see the operation, and it's very convenient to use. So that concludes this video that hopefully will help you